Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday and a happy first day of spring. Today is March 20th, 2026, and this week was pretty much a disaster. There's no other way to put it. Part of the issue was the fact that the setups that I usually take haven't been appearing as much or in the same way as they have before, especially with this market that's been sideways and kind of bearish. And the other problem is the fact that I honestly haven't been following my rules as closely as I should. So, arguably the second reason is the more important reason, which we'll talk about in a moment. I don't want to make too many excuses. Even when there's a change in a market, it's my responsibility to make sure I'm managing my risk properly and making needed adjustments, which did not happen this week. It was just a lot of losing trades and a lot of pain. As you can see, I did lose 3 combines. Those were all failed. I started a combine today, which ended up in the red once again. So I'm just going to stop trading for the week and then just refresh my mind for next week. I'm also going to be reviewing and backtesting, but just based on what happened this week, I do feel as though, it's best to take a step back for a couple days, at least until Monday. So as usual, I'm going to do a review of the trades that I took on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. After that, we'll wrap things up with the retrospective. All right, we're going to start with trading on March 17th. And here, as you can see, and during the pre-market session, we had this very, very strong bullish momentum going into the New York Open. Now, after the Open, we had a move above the 5-minute opening range. And so my thought was to buy on a pullback, which we got here. I bought at 6,795.25, which is a decent entry. I had my stop just below this golden pocket for Fib. And as you can see, this trade didn't work out as expected, and I sold at a slight loss. No big deal. The difference is only a little bit more than a point. So really not bad at all. And yeah, I think that was the only trade I took on Tuesday. And typically, when the market is bullish and there's a lot of momentum, here would have been a good entry for a long, and we would have made new highs. But with the state of the market now, there's so much sideways action and just lack of momentum, it doesn't look like this strategy works as well as it did. Wednesday, let's see. Wednesday was a bit better. Now, this was a FOMC day, so there was a lot of volatility during the afternoon. But before then, price action was pretty choppy. If you look here, you can see that we're below VWAP, and VWAP is sloping down. But then we also had this bullish break of the 5-minute opening range. In this case, I tried entering, I did enter a long trade. I was hoping that we would get a move back up to VWAP just acknowledging that the trend wasn't really bullish, but there was still a short-term opportunity for price to perhaps move back up to VWAP, which would have been a nice trade. That did not happen, and I sold this long at 6750.75. Actually made out with a little bit of profit here, and that's because I moved up my stop. Now, as you can see, we had this very strong bearish break after about 45 minutes of consolidation. All right, because of this bearish break, this is my signal to look for a short entry. And in terms of a short entry, I was looking for about a 50% retracement of this bearish move, which we got here. I just had a limit order set for when price reached this level, and once it did, I held on to this short. My stop loss was just above the 61.8% level, so it would have been around 6,745. My target was just a little bit below the low of day, and well, at first we had a lot of choppiness. Because of that, I exited the short at 6729.25. This wasn't a bad amount of profit, but it wasn't great either. I definitely should have just held on to the short because price did move to my profit target. And I'm going into the afternoon session. Bearish momentum continued all the way until basically the end of the day. I did take a trade during the FOMC press conference. I saw that we had a continuation of bearish momentum. So obviously I was looking for a short. And this short I entered by mistake. I was really looking for a larger pullback, which we did not get. In fact, we just had a continuation lower. And really, this fib should be further up. But the idea is that I entered this short by mistake, and I was really looking for a larger move higher before wanting to get into a short trade. In retrospect, though, this short trade would have worked out beautifully because we just kept moving lower and lower and lower. And that would have been a lot of profit. But I just decided to get out of that trade because it didn't fit my criteria since. All right. And then that brings us to the disastrous day, Thursday. And to be honest, it's like I threw everything I learned out of the window this day. I did not have a stop loss set or maximum loss limit for the day, and I also didn't have a max number of trades set since these are new accounts. I thought to myself, do I really need any of those things? I'm responsible. I'm disciplined. I can manage these trades properly. But that did not happen on yesterday. And so the result was just horrible trading and horrible results. All right, let's go through each of these trades. We're going to mark the opening range. So this is our 5-minute opening range on Thursday, March 19th. Now, we had been significantly below VWAP the entire pre-market session. So my bias for this day was bearish, right? Now I entered a short here based on a continuation of a move lower from the VWAP band. You can't see the band here, but the standard deviation, first standard deviation of the VWAP band was around here. And since we had a rejection, I decided to go short. That didn't end up being the right play. I exited the short at 6,638.25. And then I thought, well, if this area wasn't the right area to go short, maybe I should go short at VWAP. Now, once we had moved to VWAP, I decided to go short here. Well, not only did we have a move at VWAP, but we had a bearish candle. And the straight was working out at first, but this higher high essentially caused me to think about how this trade might not work. But I didn't exit here. Instead, I exited at 6,654, which is pretty high. And this was not a good exit at all. And so this was, let's see, the second losing trade for the day. Now let's talk about this trade here. After we had this third cross of VWAP and a bearish move after that, a giant bearish candle, that told me that the bearish momentum would continue. So I got short at 6,638.25. Then I didn't exit this trade until 6,650. Now, this third trade, I actually had my profit target at the low of the 5-minute opening range here. So my profit target was around 66.12, 66.11. At first, this trade was working out beautifully. At one point, I was up almost $800. And what I did not expect was for this strong bullish move right back up to VWAP. And because of that move, I got stopped out. Now here, I did try shorting again. At this point, I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm shorting after 1, 2, 3, and after the fourth bearish move from VWAP. Anyway, this trade ended up as, let's see, I guess a little profit, but this fourth trade wasn't a good trade at all. Again, I know better than this. I don't know what I was thinking. In the afternoon, I decided that I was going to try to make back my losses during power hour, because there's a lot of momentum and volatility during power hour in a lot of cases. Well, this power hour trading ended up being the nail in the coffin for these combines, because I had 2 more losing trades. Now, this huge move up, I believe, was due to news about the Strait of Hormuz. But what I was thinking was that we would get a reversion back down to near VWAP. My idea was to short. I got in short at 6,675 once I saw this strong red candle. But then I exited this short at 6,681.75. So this ended up being another losing trade. Oh my goodness. And then I don't even know what I was thinking for this trade here, this sixth trade. I guess because we couldn't go lower at this point, I was thinking we could go higher. So I took a long at 66.83, and then I was just so burnt out. I actually just didn't even look at the charts. I thought if this trade is going to work, my account saved. If it's not going to work, they're all blown. And guess what happened? All the accounts, the combines, got blown. You know, today was another losing day. A little over $500. Again, you can see that we had a continuation of the bearish price action. We had a bearish retest of VWAP actually right during, right at the 9:30 opening for the New York session, and then another bearish retest of VWAP here about 15 minutes after the New York open. What I was anticipating was a continuation, so I accidentally got into this trade here, and this one ended up being a loss, this accidental trade. I got long here because I was treating this as a reversion trade to maybe revert back up to the low of the 5-minute opening range, because we had this bullish candle here, but that didn't quite work out as expected. So this trade here, the second trade, was a loss. In terms of the overall trend, I was waiting for a retest to this 50% area, the golden pocket, to go short. But in the meantime, I was looking for quick moves down and continuation of bearish momentum. Here, I entered a short at 6,599.75 because, you know, we had this bearish move lower. You can't see it here, but I had a level of resistance marked, and you know, once I got into this trade, there was a lot of sideways price action, and I exited at 6,603.25. And if you look, if I had just waited, there we go, there was my 50% retracement. If I had set a limit order here and maybe take profit order, another limit order to buy down here, this would have been a beautiful winning trade. But alas, that's not how the day ended up. After this start losing trade, I just decided that it would be best to stop trading. All right, so there's a lot to talk about. In terms of the retrospective, I'm just going to do it right on the charts. I think that would make more sense since you can see everything. And I can see everything too. Now, you know, the biggest issue I would say for this week was not following the process. Let's say this did not work. And yeah, the trading I did on Thursday was a prime example of that. I just did not manage risk properly, and you know, it's very frustrating because I know better. Yeah, I made a video on this a couple of weeks ago, right? So I need to make sure that I am avoiding taking too many trades, and I have a MLL set, Again, this is something that I know that I should do. I was just thinking that I didn't need it, when in reality, I do. Really, the other thing that didn't work was, let's say, state of the market, which we already talked about. Of course, not following the process is something that is much worse than the state of the market. We can't change or really have a big effect on whether the market is bullish or bearish. We can't affect the process, but the state of the market did not help either. The VWAP trades, they're not working out the way that they had been before. Let's say a couple months ago, or even a month ago. A lot of times these moves just don't have a continuation. This is an example. We had a bullish move, but then we had a move all the way back down to the low, the 5-minute opening range. Also note that we had a bullish break of the 5-minute opening range, but this bullish break also was a bearish retest of VWAP. And also notice how VWAP is sloping downward. So this is just an example of some things that cause the types of trades that I take to not work out properly. Well, maybe we can also just jump into what worked. Even though this week wasn't the best week, to put it lightly, I did do some VWAP wave research. Let's see, VWAP wave research. We could say it's going well. I did try some mean reversion trades, which is something I mentioned last week. They didn't all work out as expected, but at least it was good to try a different approach in the market. Granted, I don't think that's what I need quite right now, but I think it was good that I gave it a shot. All right, we talked about what worked, what did not work. Now we need to talk about what comes next. What we're going to try next week in order to fix this mess. Looking closely at the days when I do well compared to the days when I don't do well. I notice that I take more trades on the bad days. So of course, we are going to limit number of trades per day and set maximum loss limit, which is something I really even shouldn't be bringing up because it's just something I've mentioned before. Let's say 4 trades a day, and then I'm going to have the maximum loss limit set to $700, which I've already done. All right, the next thing I need to do is work on, let's say, develop detailed trade plan. Develop more detailed trade plan. And stick to it. Develop more detailed trade plan and stick to it, and develop specifically develop detailed plan for entries and exits. I'll say exits. Now, based on my trading, I don't feel as though I have a hard time identifying the entries, but the exits are pretty tricky for me at the moment, because there have been a few cases when I have gotten into a trade and held on to it and had a good amount of profit, only to give all those profits back. Or in some cases, I would exit a trade prematurely, only to see price move in my favorite direction later on. An example of the former is right here when I had the short entry at 6,638.25, and I was up at $800 at one point, only to give all those profits back. So the trade plan for exiting trades is it's going to have to, well, I'm thinking it's going to be related to the ATR or risk reward. And how about this? How about we just stick to 1 to 2 setups? Trading too many setups has been getting me in trouble. So I'm just going to pick 1 to 2 and stick to those. Also want to continue back testing VWAP wave system. And I think this system shows a lot of promise. I'm just going to do some more research before trying to use it again. And along with the back testing, this is going to include paper trading during different market hours. So I might be looking at trading a bit during the pre-market session, pre-market hours, pre-market session, and then maybe the Asian session. But also should look into and start a trade grading. Say start giving trades a grade. I've done a load of research and I've heard about traders giving their trades a grade based on a rubric grading system, and I think that'll be useful for me. So I'm going to start and add this process to my journaling. This is something you'll see next week. And I'll just have to do some research on trading grade system. It'll probably be related to the quality of the setup and exits and entries and things like that. All right. Just looking back, items I had from last week, unfortunately I did not make progress on those. I just need to do better next week. This week is not what I want to see. It's just very frustrating because I know better I also knew that if I keep repeating the same mistakes, I won't make any progress. Now, hopefully, I won't have a week like this again. And I also hope that I have some better news next week. As always, if you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know. I'm thinking about starting the daily recut videos again. I haven't decided yet. But in any case, yeah, this is all I have for today. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye now.